Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Ojard, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar, where we're going to get to know BPM Online. We're going to go through what BPM is, why we chose to add it to our product lineup, and how it compares to Infor CRM, because I know a lot of you are currently using Infor CRM. That will probably be an interesting comparison to go through. I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping items before I hand it over to Scott Weber, who is your presenter today. So you will have noticed your line is placed on mute. However, we do encourage you to, throughout the webinar, any question you may have, post that to the question pane. And at the conclusion of today's webinar, we will get through as many of those as possible. If for some reason we run out of time or we don't have the answer for you offhand, we will definitely follow up with you via email. But other than that, I don't have anything else to add, so I'm going to turn it over to Scott so we can get started. Scott?
Thank you, Bree, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to show this to you today and share some of our insights on this product called BPM Online. So let me share my screen, see if I can manage this. All right, just a couple of quick slides. Go. We'll start out by talking about who we think is the ideal BPM Online customer. And we'll start by saying it's a CRM product that to me really transcends way beyond what a lot of people are accustomed to with what a CRM does. BPM Online goes beyond those typical boundaries, and so you're going to find that we're going to use the word like 360-degree feature set and views into the customer's journey. And that really begins with inbound marketing, where we're tracking web activities and keeping track of things that are, content and assets, digital assets that are being consumed on your website. Those are all components of what BPM is doing on the inbound side, as well as things like landing pages, forms, surveys, and I'll show you that as we get through the demo here today. And then it also has built-in outbound marketing. So it is a full feature set with regard to outbound marketing, and most people would view that as, email blasts, but there's much more to it because the outbound marketing tools of BPM are intelligent, interactive, dynamic, and are all integrated highly into the whole footprint of the software itself. Of course, as you would expect, it's awesome at sales activities, pipeline management, forecasting, activity management, lead management, and those typical sales activities. And there's also a mobile client that comes with the product as well. And it also has what I'll call simple accounting. Well, what does that mean? It has the ability to convert an opportunity into a proposal, which can be converted into an order and an invoice, and even track the receivable process all the way through. Now, it's never intended to replace an actual ERP system, but for a lot of companies that have very simple needs for accounts receivable, we've got all that built in natively as well. The other part of it that's exciting is the customer/partner portals. And so part of the native functionality is portals. We hear very often that our customers want to provide some information to their customers and maybe their distribution partners or an outside ad agency or a call center or something like that, where they're not on staff, but they still need some access to be able to collaborate and share information on external web portals. And that is also part of the native functionality without having to revert to third-party solutions to do some of those things. It's also built upon a process engine. Every business out there operates on processes, going through steps to accomplish something, whether that be an opportunity or working a lead through to its conclusion or delivering an invoice or surveying or something like that, the entire BPM platform is actually built on top of a process engine. And I'll show you those as well as we get into the demo. And those are divided into what we call use cases, which are interactive through the interface with the user. There's also fully automated workflows. Those are things that can happen, behind the scenes that are doing work and accomplishing things without user intervention. They're just happening because of triggers and data conditions that have existed in the system. And you can also fire those manually, which I'll show you. And then finally, we have approvals that are available everywhere throughout BPM. And that's designed to allow you to intelligently have let's say, some data condition that warrants somebody else to approve what you're about to do or what you're trying to do. And so the most common case I can think of that is a salesperson who might have priced, a quote below some discount threshold that they've been approved to do without their manager giving it the okay. And so throughout the product, everything in BPM has the ability to have an approvals engine tied to it as well. And then I mentioned the portals that allow you to collaborate in real time with your customers and partners. And then finally, we love the fact that companies who want to invest in CRM to continue to make it relevant and in alignment with their ever-changing business is very easy to do in BPM Online. And so what we're finding is our BPM customers are investing in improving CRM and at the same time minimizing funds that are being spent on maintaining their current CRM system. So kind of a shift in the value proposition as you build out the CRM system over time. This is from BPM itself, and so it's designed to help companies accelerate, and they really focus on 4 critical areas to deploy quickly, get the product up and producing results very fast. Also, the implementation story is very feature-rich, which I'll show you out of the box. It has a native integration engine built into it, and the process engine that we talked about to accelerate your implementations and integrations to other products. So very fast and easy to implement and build integrations to other business applications if that's your wish. We also love the fact that it is very well liked because of a very simple user interface, and so it has very high user adoption, very high user satisfaction because it is so simple and easy and intuitive to use. Everybody loves that. Next would be alignment, and again, the process engine allows you to interact across other office platforms, front office, back office applications through our integration engine and workflow process engines, and to help eliminate or even help, I should say, automate even what I'll call semi-manual processes, which we'll show you, so that'll make a little more sense. And then the final one is change. It's built on a low-code, no-code platform, and the meaning of that, which I'll show you, is that you can accomplish a tremendous amount of configuration and customizations in BPM right inside of the product through a what you see is what you get kind of drag and drop editor for every single screen, and every function built into it is done without writing lines of code to help you, again, keep it relevant, keep it moving forward, and keep adding valuable functionality to your teams through the lifespan of the product. All right, so that is it for my slides. So let's jump into the actual BPM demonstration here. So it's a web application, as you would expect, and it's offered as a cloud where you subscribe to it. It's a SaaS model, and you can deploy it in the cloud, which is what customers would normally do, but you can also install it on-premise. So if you would rather have it installed on your own server farm in your business, you can still do that. It's exactly the same code and functionality, and it is still, however, software as a service. So you're never buying licenses and paying, for ongoing maintenance and support. You just pay the annual fee for the licenses you need, and it's yours as long as you are a subscriber to it, whether that's the cloud version or the on-premise version. Either way is your choice. Next, we'll talk about kind of the general interface for it. Over on the left side is what we call workplaces. And so if I click this little down arrow, these are the workplaces. So we've got various sections that pertain to, for example, somebody in a marketing role. These are the places they'd want to visit and do work within BPM if you were in a marketing department. If I'm in the sales department, I would go to the sales workplace, and here would be the typical sections and destinations. And we'll visit these as we go through the demo in a little more detail. And then finally, we've got customer service and support, and these are the kinds of things that they would do within the CRM system. Next would be, if we look over to the right, we've got what we call the communication panel. And what you can do in the communication panel is, for example, we have built-in telephony integration, which means you can place phone calls to your accounts and contacts and leads in the system right from within BPM. If you have, a IP-based phone system that allows desktop dialing, we have that built into BPM, as well as internal calls amongst your own team. And new calls and outgoing calls are tracked inside of the CTI panel. We also go a step further, and we also have the built-in email client. And so right inside of BPM is your email client. So as you're sending and receiving emails, they're going to be showing up in this panel on the right. And next is our chat engine. So a lot of companies do utilize some kind of, internal chat like HipChat or Slack or something like that. And so BPM has that built in so that you can communicate amongst your team and managers and partners and so forth right inside of the chat panel. And these chats, which they call the feed, are contextual, and I'll show you that as we get a little further into it here, meaning you get to chat about something. So it's not just, ambiguous conversations going on. These chats are linked to BPM records, meaning I'm talking about an opportunity here with somebody at Alpha Business. Next would be your alarms, and this would be activities that are due, and you've set it to let you know when something is needing to happen. So activities that have an alarm associated to them would show up in this panel. And then the next one is for notifications that you've set up when you want to know that an order was placed or a contract was signed or something like that. So those kinds of notifications, rather than bombarding you with emails, we can actually just signal you that something you care about has happened within BPM and present those items inside of this notification panel. And then the last one is the approval process. So like I mentioned, we have built-in approvals. And so if you are being asked to approve something in BPM, this is where we can work on those approvals and decide to accept or deny the ability for that user to move forward, give them a reason they shouldn't do it, or why they can go ahead and, let's say, offer a discount or something like that. So that's just part of your approval panel over here, notifications and reminders. So now let's close that communication panel and take a look at one of the account records in the system. So we'll pick on called Alpha Business, and as you can see, I can see my records in a list view, and I can also, all these blue texts are hyperlinks, which means you click on them, something's going to happen, including going to dial the phone. If I click on a phone number, it'll send an email. If I click on an email address, we're get ready to send one. But let's go into Alpha Business and take a look at the full record. So over here on the left is some of the one-to-one classification type data, main information, the customer, who's the BPM user that owns the website, phone number, and so forth is here, as well as we show you the primary contact. So you don't have to dig around in the tabs to go find out who's responsible for this particular account in our system. I get this right here in the primary contact panel. Then in the middle of the screen at the top, that's really what we call our action panel. This is where activities are scheduled. Somebody's supposed to do something with this account, like have a conference call, prepare a contract, and so these are your activities that have been scheduled. It shows you who it's scheduled for, and you can complete these right from here or schedule a follow-up. And then these little icons across the top let you add new activities. So for example, a phone call that I go out and link it to one of the contacts here. I can create an email, because remember we have a built-in email client. And so this allows you to address it to who you need to, and even pull in a template email, because we support multiple email templates that also have merge fields in them if you wish. So you can merge relevant data from the record into the email for your users to be able to send those out. Next is if you want to post something to the feed, you want somebody to know something about Alpha Business within your organization that happened. Maybe they placed a big order, or they're unhappy about something. You can throw a post out there that then shows up in their feed tab if somebody added that. And then finally, this little flag lets you do the traditional activities, such as schedule a meeting to do, and you can adjust all these different categories of tasks that fit your business. Schedule the dates and times and so forth. So that's what we're looking at up here, is all the actions that are scheduled for this particular account. Down below, under the account information, is kind of D&B type stuff, communication, phone numbers, emails, web addresses, things like that can all show up down here. Addresses, details. So if you are using it for accounting purposes, this gives you information about their banking information. Noteworthy events would be they have owned by this account, into their record or into one of those records. So as we move across, we can also have multiple contacts, and then we can also organize those contacts into an organizational structure. Put them into departments, have nested departments, and have a hierarchy of the contacts that make up this organization. The next one we'll show you is the timeline, and the timeline is a chronological list of every single thing that has been created, every single piece of data that's been added or created within BPM shows up in this chronological listing by date. There's an order here, an opportunity was created here, here's some activity that took place, a phone call, a meeting. So it's all kind of, again, showing up in a chronological scrolling list. But you can filter that stuff out too, as you would expect. You can get rid of things that you really don't care to see. That's fine. You can search for things, and you can also do things like pick date ranges and pick which user these items are created by. So all kinds of filtering. Now, this can be a little confusing, because, it requires less scrolling to kind of see what's going on. But you also see that same information now in the History tab. However, in the History tab, it's organized by what type of data it is. Here's your activities, support contracts, service cases, phone calls that came and went, all of your emails that are linked to the records, invoices, orders, and it goes on and on. Attach files, leads, projects, opportunities. I'm at risk right now of showing a whole lot of information. Anything and everything can be hidden. I don't really care to see, projects. I keep that collapsed. I don't really work with leads. I can keep that collapsed. So I can lean down the interface to make it a little more appropriate for what I care to see when I land on a record. All right, so scrolling back up to the top, of course, attachments and notes. We support drag and drop of file attachments here, and you can have general notes that you want people to be aware of when they land on this record if there's something important to know. And then finally, if we scroll a little bit further, this is that feed I was talking about earlier, where these are conversations that are happening amongst your team as you're discussing and talking about different things that are going on with the records inside of BPM for this particular account. As you would guess, we can also filter and have groups. And so you have the ability to build groups of records that are dynamic, based on conditions, or ad hoc records that you've thrown into a group, like, for example, VIP customers. Here's my favorite customers. These are customers that are partners, or we've logged. These are built upon filters that I've applied to the system. But the other thing I can do is, rather than applying one of my pre-built filters, I can always for records just by adding a fly filter. Well, I want to see everybody whose name account whose name starts with an R or has an R in it. So that's a temporary filter that's been applied to pare down list to make it easier for me to find things. And then finally, you have the ability to tag records. And tag records means you can create your own words that have some significance. Maybe you want to tag all of your golfing buddies or something like that. So you could create a tag called BPM and then attach that tag to any records you want in the system. And then, of course, you can search for records that have that tag. So it's a way to group, sort, and filter records that is not driven by data, but rather it's just driven by a personal tag that you've associated with those records. And then finally, up here at the top is our search box, and the searching is global. So it uses plain English words and sentences, and it will find records anywhere and everywhere in the system where it finds a match for that. And then print is where we have both reports. So BPM has a report engine built in to it for creating static reports. And it's also integrated with Word for building Word templates. And those Word templates and reports are available everywhere in the system. They work with any browser and can be saved as a PDF, pop up as a Word document that's editable after you ran it, your choice. So sprinkled throughout the program, you can have those printables, they're called, reports and documents available for the users to generate. And as you would probably guess, you can export stuff out to Excel as well, and you can import data into any section in BPM. It's a very intelligent import engine where it looks for dupes and can merge records on the way in and update records. So a very sophisticated import engine and a very sophisticated dupe prevention and duplication elimination component built into it as well. Very robust and powerful features right there. All right, so moving on, let's see. We'll talk a little bit about leads because let's jump over to sales here and look at leads. Now, leads in BPM are independent records. And well, what does that mean? That means that a lead, there could be any of them over time for your contacts and your accounts. So you can have a lead for a contact or an account or both. But the idea is that a lead record, somebody raises their hand, demonstrates some kind of interest in something you sell. you create a new lead record. So you're not creating separate records in another part of the CRM. Leads are just added to. There can be multiple leads for every contact or any account. And those leads are worked on independently here in the leads area. And of course, if I was to click again, Roger here, you're going to get to see all the leads that he's produced with us over time. Here's a couple of them. And so those are worked on in the leads area. So let's jump back there. So if we open up, let's see, I've got a particular one I want to look at. Let's see. We'll just open up this one. So now, as a salesperson, I'm working on the lead record itself. And so we could identify, what kind of a lead is, how did it get here? And these leads can be generated through, manual entry, through a form on your website, which is all standard. They could be generated by a marketing blast, a nurture blast that was sent out through BPM. But you can also generate leads, right from your email. So if we hop back into the email here, and let's say this email, which is linked to Chris Halsrud and a support case and opportunity, but right from here, I can also create a brand new lead. If this email is some indication he's interested in buying something else, I can generate a new lead record right from the email. So there are a number of ways to get new leads brought into the BPM. So jumping back again into that lead record, I'm just double clicking on it. Let's close and close this to give us a little more screen real estate back. Across the top now, this is one of the use case workflows that I mentioned at the beginning. So moving from left to right, our company has defined logical stages that a lead would transition through, as we're qualifying them and working on them. And then they can have pre-programmed actions tied to them. So in this particular case, the handoff to sales stage, which is how far we've progressed, happens to have some kind of activity tied to it. And so that's going to pop up on the screen when we get that far along. And once I complete this, I can then move along to the next stage in qualifying and maybe even converting this lead to an opportunity record or an order. So depending on how your company works, it can guide your users through your logical use case processes by moving them through these stages and then popping up activities for them so they don't have to remember what to do next. And also in the background, there could be automated workflows and processes firing as well that might, send an alert, send an email, update some data in BPM. We'll look at that in a little more depth here in a second. Next up, let's take a look at the opportunity area. So this, as you would expect, is where sales would track their open opportunities they're working on. And just like all the other sections, there's printables and reports available here. You can sort, filter, and group these with our filters. And also throughout every section of BPM, you have contextual dashboards. So if I click on this dashboard icon, I'm going to see dashboards related to opportunities. And you can build as many of these as you want to, either yourself or for, if you're an administrator, make them available to the entire team. It's up to you how you use them. And so this is built-in analytics and dashboards everywhere, and they're context aware throughout the system. These are related again to opportunity. I also have a dashboards area while talking about this that shows me all the different dashboards that are available in the system without having to drill into a section to see them. So you're going to see all kinds of little demo dashboards that are in the system for me. Okay, so back to opportunities. And let's go back to the list of opportunities here and jump into First one. Now, within the opportunity, I have some key indicators that the system is asking about BANT: budget, authority, need, what do they need from us, and when would they buy it if they do. So these are probably going to be constantly adjusted by sales as they learn more and gather more information. They also get to adjust kind of the gut feel, we'll call it. They can click on how they think this is going as an opportunity. This one is closed, so it's all green. But the idea that this opportunity is linked to Alpha Business. And here's some details about the opportunity. We have a team of people working on the opportunity. Each might play a slightly different role. And then we can also have just contacts at the account record who are linked to this opportunity, and also identify what is their role and move through this thing. We also can see, well, was this generated by a lead? Yes, it was this particular lead that was satisfied, made it all the way to the end, and was promoted to an opportunity. And then this next stage, once I'm satisfied that this is a qualified opportunity, they're in a buying mode, I can click the button and generate a new order related to this opportunity and move it to shipping and receiving or whatever happens next. We can track tactics of your competitors, and like we saw in the account screen, we have the timeline, which is the chronological breadcrumb trail, everything that's happened with this opportunity. Here's our products that were added into the system, and our product catalog products within BPM are organized into logical catalogs, and they also have the ability to build complicated assemblies of products that are not only assemblies of products. If you buy one of these, you always got to buy one of these. We also have the concept of what are called services. A lot of companies, sell something, but it needs some kind of, training or on-site install or something like that. So the products that make up an opportunity can consist of not just, hard products, but also services as well, which are treated separately from the product. But I'll be part of that opportunity record. Okay, so moving on, we looked at the dashboard. So I think that covers everything I was hoping to show you. Obviously, you can see that there's a whole lot more here, but for the sake of time constraints, I'm only going to be bouncing along the high-level parts of the product today. And our intention is at Customer FX to have a regular monthly cadence where we're going to be doing deeper dives into each one of these areas. There's a lot to talk about and a lot going on within this product that's beyond what we could probably keep you interested in today. So bear in mind, we're going to be doing a lot more of these and in much greater detail, but I just wanted you to get the gist of it as we're plugging along here today. Okay, next up is marketing. So let's put a different hat on and let's move over into the marketing department. So marketing is going to be dealing with campaigns. Campaigns is where you plan for a new design, what's going to be happening in a campaign, which could include multiple emails over time that are blasted to an audience, could include scheduling calls for reps as part of the nurture process, so you can build all of that out. And let's see, there's one I want to show. Where is it here? Oh, this one, networking. On that one. So here's a campaign called Networking Day. This looks pretty busy, but now you're starting to get your first glimpse into the workflow engine that's all graphical within bpm'online. So what we have here is a campaign that has one of two emails that goes out to either customers or prospects. So a separate email with slightly different messaging, whether you're an existing customer or a partner, same campaign, two different emails to two different audiences, both of them which are messaged to get them to sign up for an event, and they're calling this networking day. Now, whether or not they fill out this form on your website and register drives the next wave of emails that goes out. Thanks, you registered. Just a reminder, it's been 3 days, you haven't signed up yet. And then the final plea 10 days later, please sign up. And then finally, as we indicate who attended, we can do other things like send thank yous or click here for a recording, of what you missed, something like that. So this is an example of the graphical engine that makes up our marketing campaigns. And now what I want to show you is, well, okay, that looks cool. How do I do that? And so now I've clicked in to edit that campaign, and I want to show you where marketing would actually this guy out. And so it's from here that you can drag these objects onto the screen. So like some kind of a trigger, which means some kind of a data condition that causes somebody to get enrolled in this thing, can be dragged over, a timer, wait 3 days, take them to a landing page you didn't hand, but I wish you did, so I can link, to people who didn't show up to another landing page. Please click here, tell us why I didn't show up. Maybe something like that. So this is how simple it is to do that. And you click on these objects and you fill out the properties and so forth over here on the right. So example of that would be, here's an email. Well, what email is that? Well, it's this one. And so that's one of the template emails that's been built in the email template engine down here in bpm'online. So you build these templates in our WYSIWYG editor, and then you use them in your campaigns and your email blasts and so forth. And it is a very powerful email editor. I won't dig into that today. Okay, so next up, let's see, I'm moving through my notes here. I don't want to keep you too much longer here before we transition into, well, let's take a quick look at some dashboards here. I think those are pretty cool. So now we're looking at some dashboards that are related to our email campaigns and how those are performing. What kind of new leads are we bringing in as a result of these things? We get to see those here as well in these dashboards. Okay, finally, I want to walk you through customer service. So we're going to change hats again, put a hard hat on. So now we're going into service. And service, as you would guess, is really case-centric. So, in-for calls and tickets are called cases in BPM, but this is where you would record things that are going on, problems you're dealing with for your customers, as you would expect. Here's a bunch of dashboards that are pertaining to cases and workflows that are related to cases. And those are all contextual as well. All right, so let's go into back to Alpha Business here and take a look at their cases. Oh, let's get rid of that filter. Where's my alpha? I know that I have them in a group. This one. There we go. So if we go into the history for Alpha Business and scroll down a bit, you can see, sure enough, there's a lot of cases. They've leaned on us to help them with stuff. And so that's what you're looking at here. And so if we open up one of the cases for Alpha Business, take a look. And this cases area also has the use case stages, which can have these actions tied to them, either manually or automatically. They can also have all kinds of workflows, which they do, which I'll show you in a second, that can do things like reassign it to somebody else. If the ticket isn't or the case isn't getting solved in a timely manner, you can reassign it. You can also look at somebody else's case and go, I'll take that one, so I can have that assigned to me if I want to work on this case myself. So on here, you've got your action panel up above. Accounting information is in this panel on the left, so it's summary information about the case itself. The tab is going to show any closing information. If this is a closed case that's been delivered. And then if we surveyed them, the survey results can show up right here in the case as well. Next, let's go into another case, which is here. Don't just want supervisor. There we go. This one, 48 is the one I was looking for. Got a little bit more to show in this one. So here you can see there's been some chatting going on about this case, and because there's a portal, I'm actually seeing messages that the customer is giving me. So they're talking to me. There's support about how are you doing and fixing our issue. So that's what you're looking at here in the processing area, which is what this icon is. Let's take a look at the closure. Well, what am I supposed to do about it? We'll reboot, and it should fix your issue. Let's move on to the next one, which is the agent desktop. So what that is, let me go in here and go to the agent desktop. So this is a screen that's designed to collect everything I might want to know as a support agent. So it's kind of a consolidated view. It's a mixture of a lot of what we looked at already today. So it's got my cases I'm supposed to be working on right now. It also has any chats or feeds that are coming in from any of the cases where either somebody in the company or somewhere portal add something to one of these cases. You'll see that here. And also KPIs related to me personally and how I'm performing with my cases. I can also see team KPIs that give me a broader view of me and my cohorts, and the orders that have been placed for those particular customers related to these cases. Like I had to order a replacement part or something for them, those would show up there. So that's the agent desktop that gives you a single view. Some people call this a call center view. I guess it's called a contact center in BPM. One view of everything I'd want to know as a support person. And as you would expect, we have a knowledge base. And so the knowledge base consists of articles, videos, any document that you wish to attach into BPM can be made available to your support folks, or they can be elevated to be available also from the customer self-service portal. Okay, finally, let's see, what have I missed? Of course, we have contracts, which are support agreements. So we'll take a quick look at that. And where's my contracts? I get confused. They don't have it here. Okay, go back here. There we go. Support contracts. And as you would guess, allows you to enroll a customer in some kind of a contractual agreement for supporting the products and services that you are supporting them under, so they can buy support contracts, and you can track the details about that within here. What's covered under this contract, general information about it. Does it need to be approved before it can be linked to the contract? That's part of our approval process that you see coming into play here within a contract. And I'm moving along quickly here. I think that covers everything. Okay, now the last thing I want to show here today, as we're running close on our time limit, is, well, how you change things in BPM. Well, here you go. So every single screen, every screen can be shifted into this designer mode. And so it is what you see is what you get. So you look at this back here, let's go to an account again, so I can sort of contrast for you. And we go into Alpha Business. You've got over here, name, customer, owner, web. So if I go back into the designer, sure enough, name, type, owner, web. So these are how the fields are going to show up on the screens. And then down here are those sections, tabs or sections down below. And you can add new ones. You can add new tabs, new fields, new one-to-one fields, one-to-many fields, and all you really do to do that, so let's say I want to use an existing field in the database and I really want their fax number because we're still in the 80s. So I can drag the fax number, that's it. Now when I save this, the fax number is going to appear on the account screen. Well, I really don't want that. So I can get rid of that. But I can add new fields. So let's say, well, it's not a field that's in there at all. Okay, so we can say, well, I really want a date field in here, and I get to just name it something. I can make it required. I can make it read-only. I can have it be a caption or have a title. So really that's, so I drag it over, BPM creates the field, puts it where you wanted it to put it, and you're done. You save it, and it's there. And this is live and in real time in your production system. We don't care. Likewise, if you get rid of a field, hey, nobody looks at annual revenue. Fine, let's get rid of it. Click the X, and it goes away. So this is our just simple drag and drop, low code, no code, don't need a developer kind of way to make this thing perfect. Not just modifying what's already there, but adding anything brand new. If you want new tabs, new groups, new sections, all of that can be done without writing code. Pretty cool. Then I also want to show you one of the automated workflows. Might look a little complicated, but this is a workflow. It's logical. You know, it moves from left to right, and you can view the arrows to see what's happening when. So this is an example of a graphical workflow that's going to send an email to the support person who's been assigned a case. So it reads data from the case, picks the owner based on some rule that you told it to pay attention to, you know, sends an email, somebody schedules an activity, maybe changes the subject because it's going to merge in, okay, this is for, you know, XYZ company, kind of a thing, and then the actual notification email showing up there. So this is an example of a graphical workflow. This is how you build them in BPM, and to add new things, you grab them, you know, and slide them over. I want somebody to get an email here in the middle of all this. Well, what email? What is it supposed to say? And so you drag it over there and you pick the template, you know, who's it from, who's it to, what do you want me to say, and do you want to prompt the user? That's where it could pop up on your screen and say, well, I'm about to send, you know, your boss an email here about this case you're not finishing. You can say, yep, I want it to pop up, or no, I don't. Just go. Just do it. And I don't want to be it to show up on my little communication panel over there. So these are all the system functions, you know, read data, modify data, run a script, schedule a task, what triggers it, how do I start this process, simple, which means the user goes up and says, you know, run it. Well, what do you want me to run? And so I can do a record and say, well, run, you know, report, or run this process, or whatever. So you run these processes manually, or they can be run based on one of these event triggers, timers, messages, a signal. Do I wait? No. When do you want me to stop? Do I have to branch to something else? Is there a sub process? Lots of horsepower here in the processing engine. Okay, well, Bree, that is as fast as I could possibly go at getting all this out there to everybody. So thank you for hanging in there. Do we have any questions we need to pay attention to?
Scott, not at this time.
Okay.
But we did have one just pop up. And one of the questions I did answer offline was whether or not a recording would be available. And yes, we will make a recording available. We'll put it up on our website, and I will also send out a link in the follow-up email. I did have a question pop up wondering about showing predictive analytics in leads, if that's something that you could review yet in the time we have.
I would rather take that one offline if that's okay. That's a big question with a big answer, and there's a lot to talk about there because it does do that. It's got machine learning and predictive analytics, but that was beyond the scope of what I felt I could keep people interested in just today in the 1 hour we had scheduled for this. So I apologize, we're out of time, but I'd love to take that one offline with whoever's interested.
Okay, I'll make sure you get that later, Scott, so that you can follow up. And then another question came up is, what would you consider the main differences, advantages of BPM against Infor CRM?
I think both products have their strengths and weaknesses. We're obviously at our core, and for 20 plus years, I've been an Infor CRM partner and have had great success with that because our customers have succeeded with it. The primary differences, as I mentioned in my initial slide, is that we really see this as targeting, companies that are very process driven. So you saw me over and over, talking about use case processes, workflow processes, things that are happening to kind of help the users get their work done faster and more effectively. So that's a big differentiator, I would say, is the fact that it's built upon a workflow engine everywhere, rather than something off to the side that's looking for something to do. It's all built into the system. That would certainly be probably one of the biggest advantages. And then the story around customizing it, I think, is also pretty powerful. That for just picking a number, probably 90% of the customers are going to not need IT or a partner to write code to build them the customizations they want. It's a super simple, drag, drop, done, safe development platform. I love that. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal how simple, fast, and easy it is to make this thing a perfect fit for your business. I love that part of the story.
Another question that just popped up, Scott, is how does BPM handle external integrations compared to Infor CRM, compared to SData API?
Yeah, it's proprietary. So it's, Infor's flavor, a REST type API connector. BPM is just industry standard. It has, web services. I'm probably the last guy who's qualified to talk about the technicalities of it. And that is absolutely going to be something we'll talk about in a future webinar. And that is, well, how do I integrate something with BPM? And so it's a matter of, building a web service request in the web services area, choosing the method. I'm probably getting myself in trouble because I'm already over my head, but perhaps the person who asked is going, oh yeah, I get it. So you can use, JSON raw CRL and so forth to build a connection to that. So you build your connectors here, choose the authentication methodology, however that works, and that's it. And then the data, is pushed and pulled through a workflow that you would tie to this web service that you built. And you would, of course, build the screen. So if it's like you're pulling in accounting data, you would either use the built-in invoice screen that comes with BPM, or if you want to build your own, you build the view, build the table structure, build the API, put in your authentication, schedule it with a workflow, and that's it. I made it sound really simple, but I'm told by our developers it is. It's probably something I missed. All right.
Yeah, well, that we are at the end of the hour, and that right now wraps up our questions. However, after you get off this webinar, if you come up with anything else that you'd like to ask, you can send an email to either Scott or myself, or to info@customerfx.com, where you would we get those emails as well, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, we'll make this recording available for you or for any coworkers that were unable to attend that you think would like to get a look at BPM Online. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.